sensation you want to have during practice. Yay! Seafood Chin used to tell us all the time that a good day's practice is like a kid playing with their toys. Right, right. You know, all right. Absolute gorgeous morning here. Uh, I think as far as business parts goes, don't forget, I, I sent out tried something new from the website, which was I sent out a group email with the YouTube link in it. Of course, y'all are here, so you're not using that. But the idea is that both at Patreon and the website, I think I can send emails with the that week's YouTube link. Also, I will be manager on duty in Pinehurst. I believe that's May 9th, that weekend. So anybody wants to come down for that weekend, that's when I'll be there. And remembering that the class down there starts about like it does here whenever you practice till about 10, a little after 10. We haven't passed going out for breakfast, but occasionally I'm teaching classes at 10:30, which I've been bringing Brian and some of the folks over with me over to the hospital centers, and they can participate with that as well. So y'all are welcome to do that anytime, um, and you all are too. Uh, all right. So with that being said, uh, a natural part of practice is there's different pieces, and y'all did a brilliant job today about not worrying about so much about form. There was a couple of working on form, and form has its place. But when you're working on uh, trying to apply what I would refer to as form friendly applications. They're there to help you kind of understand what you may be doing. We were working a big group of you were working on the shuttles, right? So when we practice that in the air, you'll start, and for example, you'll have it out of a almost like holding the baby sort of look, and then you have this action and this action, right? Now, I'm sure there's not a lot of you that have actually seen, like, I've seen my grandmother actually use a shuttle. If you've ever seen them sitting there in her knitting area, right? Right. And you see her working it back and forth, right? And making a blanket or whatever else she might be making. But the idea is that when you later on, you start to see this action like putting it in, turning it, just like you would a shuttle, right? Uh, so when you first start in the air, you start with this A, B, C sort of action. You keep moving till you have just this A, B, C. A, B, C all finished together. Right? That's a different feeling. Then you have the Tai Chi theories you try to apply to it, depending upon what it is you're feeling. So I'm going to give you a good example. This is what we're working on. If I feel like what I want you, if I feel like Ryan is what you were working on, if I feel like Ryan is backing away, I may come into it. That's the net. If I feel like he's coming at me, I back out. I give him. And so I'm trying to sense his. I'm trying to sense what's available to me. If he starts to withdraw, he sucks me in. That's how I would practice it. It was kind of like, and I would literally make the sound, right? Because sounds help me. You practice, you'll hear me. And that's not for you, that's for me. Because it helps instill the sensation in me. Yeah. And if I feel him go, whoop, that's my retreat sound, withdrawal sound. Give him the space. So I go, whoop, bam. And the other one is back out and chase him down, right? Where he's sucking me in. When you're practicing, that would be the next. Well, actually, the level before that, what I call the wooden dummy, our domino arm. He's just going to hold out an arm and empty myself. This arm doesn't really exist. If I need to pretend, just walk through it. See if we used to call it the paper mache. Is that right? Where you see the football team and the cheerleaders are holding the big thing and the football team runs through the paper? That's the paper. But it's not, right? It's actually something there, but your mind pretends like it's a cement rock or a cement wall instead of just walk through the paper. You boys always hear walk through the door, right? Same thing, right? Then the next level after that is the play level where he might toss me the ball and I have to, or bam, whatever I'm going to do. Uh, then later, what you do is expand off of that basic to y'all's question, right? So instead, I may turn it into something like that. I end up in exactly the same position, but instead of going 1, 2, 3, okay, I'm gonna just take it and roll with it and learn how to move different ways to end up in the same place. In fact, one of the things that Bob also pointed out, if you look at uh, wind blows lotus leaf, the last technique is pretty much a shuttle hand anyway, right? Because you get into here and then it goes here instead of here. That's all. Okay. You can practice it in a number of different ways. Working the shuttles isn't just bound to the technique you learn. And this is true for all of your techniques. I just happen to point at this one because it's common. Working the shuttles is common in almost every Tai Chi practice. Right. So if we took that and said, okay, let's just break that down. Uh, Working the shuttles mechanically, right? Generally, if we're just in the posture, the best place to is right in here. It's just start in a posture. And generally in the forms, what you'll find is that the opposite hand and foot are forward in this particular expression of technique. And the body, you'll either be in a bow stance or, as you can usually see with Scott and Ryan, and sometimes with Bob as well, depending upon their practice, is that they'll be in a half horse or a T stance into here. And in fact, I would like for a lot of you all, if you can, be encouraged. I won't correct it. I'll be actually it's for several of you when you're finishing what we call a finishing hand, and shuttles is a finishing hand because if you get hit with it, it sucks, right? um, is to finish in this uh, we call it a T stance. It goes by several names. Some is called a half horse because you start a horse stance and you turn that foot out, and that's your T stance right there. Did you see how I got into that? It's a horse stance, a half horse. Most of you all, because of the health practice that you're in, are very used to doing a bow stance. And a bow stance, you're about 70-30. This foot's turned in, both heels are flat. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it at all. But when you try to practice finishing later on, you're going to want this stance in your repertoire. Okay. And so if, huh? 51-50. Okay. The way Sifu Chin would explain it, say, look, sit right in the middle, move 1 grain of rice to the rear. 1 grain of rice. There you go. And so when you would see something like in Tai Chi Chuan, they'll talk about being double weighted. And Sifu Ko and several of the older folks who practice that would get criticized because they would do, you would see them like this and they go, well, that's a double weighted stance. That your balance is distributed evenly between back and forth. And Sifu Chin said, yeah, but that's because um, they're martially ignorant, I guess is a way of saying it, is that you can't tell what I'm doing by looking at me. Now, how do you determine what's double weighted? There's two forms. There's individual form and then there's collective form. All right. And by collective form or by individual form, you're double weighted when you spread your weight out and sink yourself in such a way that you can't move unless you have a collateral motion before or a pre-existing motion, right? Give it a good example being double weighted. Okay. I'm not even I don't even look double weighted, right? It looks like I got more weight on the back, but I can't move unless I do something to change because I'm locked down. When you're locked down, you're double weighted. So when I'm in this T stance and I may look like my weight is spread evenly, but I ain't got to do anything. I can move. Test me, right? You say, no, check me. I can go any. I don't have to have any pre-existing, right? Initiation. Yes, thank you. Like an initiating motion. Um, so the idea here with this stance though is that it's an explosion. Bam. So when you go bam, bam, I'm working the shuttles. Great way to practice. If y'all have any questions about it, check with these three: Bob, Ryan, and Scotty. Okay. Um, and not to get us off the topic of the shuttles, but to introduce that stance to you. Um, I don't want you to be limited uh, too much, but when you practice it, remembering that the air version is just going to have you go out and finish together, body, boom, boom, and when you do it, your knees kind of spread out, right? You don't want to get in the habit of coming in and going and letting that back knee, particularly the back knee, collapse on you. You want to feel like you just sit down just an inch. There you go. That's good, Karen. Okay, Kathy. Not well. You want your arm to feel like it's straight, like a 4x4. If you're ever unsure about the structure of your arm the way it should be, whether that's a palm or particularly a fist, because a lot of times when people use a fist, they get all sort of contorted, right? If you want to figure out how to do it, just take and put your hands on the ground and hold yourself for just a minute. I don't care if you're on your knees, but just hold yourself for a moment. That sensation is this sensation. Try to do a push up with your knees buckled, I mean, your wrist, buckled it. It's not going to work. That's it. And notice that my hand can be very relaxed. It's the structure of the bone, it's not the form of my hand. And if you can do that, then when you motion, you just get used to making this. When I do this, I feel it here, not there. Right. So that shape, go ahead and practice a little bit more. That shape. And Scotty knows this one. Real easy. That's good, Tara. Work on your working the shuttles. You can roll it. I like to sometimes practicing it this way, where I'm coming across and bringing it up. That's the one you saw me do on Ryan, where I intercepted, like where I was pretending like I feel something coming. I move, come around, and that causes with him is practicing adhering. Right, I'm just trying to practice adhering, sticking to it. But your mind has to be open to that instead of always the 1, 2, 3 kind of action. Scott, why don't you walk around and help some of these other folks just try to make sure they got a good structure and then good timing. T stance is what you're going to normally hear us call it, but you sometimes I'll write it down and use the stand half horse. In Bakwa, they call it the dragon stance. It's always difficult when something goes by 2 or 3 names, but just imagine that in Chinese. Right, right. Well, yeah, you would think so, but they would describe it differently, so it wouldn't be the same symbol. A half horse would be different than the dragon, right? So the symbol. But fortunately, once you see it, it's just like we talk about in Choli foot and hop guard. You go, That's an upper swing punch. Now, how you might be using it or what you might be using it for may be different, but you know a pal choi when you see one, right? Yeah, yeah, especially yes. If you feel one. Okay, and if you feel pretty good about that technique, then also practice walking it. Well, maybe like you do in one of your forms, and I'm gonna walk it this way, is that when you practice walking it, you can practice it either in a bow stance or a half dragon. But if I'm gonna walk it, then I'm gonna turn, intercept, and now on my timing there, I did a Tai Chi timing where I allow my foot to slide in and then my body to come after. Nothing wrong with that at all, right? All you got to do is practice that where I turn, there's my foot, and now my body and the technique's going to come in afterwards. Okay. That's one way of doing it. If I'm going to do that and do it and finish with a dragon or a T step, I'm going to do the same thing. So what's going to happen is as soon as this front foot lands, my knees are going to go like that. And so it'd walk like this. Boom. Seafood used to call it like a pot hitting the floor, right? So if you, like if in the old days, if you still have one, you hardly ever can find is we used to have one for the longest time too. Is the clay teapots. Have you ever seen those? A teapot in Chinese medicine is the most recommended teapot. Is the clay teapots, and he would say, just imagine like you're a teapot hitting the floor. And by that, the image is that your body is the teapot, the shell of it, and your spirit, your blood, your intention is the tea inside the pot. And so when the pot hits the floor, the inside just kind of spills all out into the floor in every direction, not in a predetermined fashion. So when you're walking it, sometimes you go boom, and everything just kind of sinks. That's the idea of the tea stand. And finishing, trying to let everything out and then roll it right back up and get into your next actions. Now, good. How we doing? Oh, okay, got you. Yeah, okay, well, good. Yeah. So, the introduction to the T stance, and you can practice that in a number of places, especially like anytime you feel like you're finishing. Another good place to practice it is at the center punch. So, you go backhand intercept, center punch, and you'll see me naturally go into that. I can't hardly help myself unless I'm trying to consciously think about it. Um, huh? All right. So, any other questions? No, no. Okay. Um, and the other thing I want to try to remind you of is about there's a difference. Like right now, what we're doing is we're putting a magnifying glass under the concepts of application and understanding of a technique. Right. But it's important in your Tai Chi, in particularly, is to be able to recognize what techniques or what expressions in a form called Tao Lu, Taolu, right? Are sometimes called Elu, or Erlu is way people say it, form one, form two. Lu is the word form. Okay. Is that many times in a form, it is it is designed not to get the practitioner to understand all the applications. In fact, that's impossible. It's not even designed to always be application. Sometimes in your forms, you're going to be doing things that are associated with your ability to unify your mind and body as a single unit. And it has nothing to do with a physical boxing technique. It has to do with your ability to transform and respond in a way that's creative in a moment. right? And make sure you understand that, because a lot of times when you're trying to interpret certain parts of a form, you may try to interpret it as a physical application. It is to you, not to an outsider. Always interpret form from the inside first, and then it makes it easier to understand it to the outside. And there's plenty of places in your forms that you'll find, and you'll try to manifest some external application of it instead of trying to understand yourself in it. And that's a big difference, right? And because the forms are designed in the Chinese theory is that you're never going to know the how, when, and where your opponent's going to hit you. So quit trying to make the shit up all the time. Put yourself in positions you don't know how you're going to get there. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know how you're going to move. And I'm sorry, I just realized what I said. But the idea is that you have to be able to manifest inside yourself the ability to somehow you go, well, what the hell is all this? Well, can you turn? That's all it is, right? It doesn't have to be a special, like I'm sweeping his leg and then taking him over, right? That's an external trying application. Instead of just saying, okay, look, let's come up, kick, turn, out. Being able to center your mind like a ballerina, an ice skater, any athlete that has to spin on a dime. If you've never watched Barry Sanders play football, right? Howie Long, Hall of Famer, said the only person I ever wanted to hit my life as hard as I possibly could was Barry Sanders, because he's the only one that you could never hit as hard as you could because you could never catch him. But Barry Sanders didn't go, okay, well, today I'm going to practice this, this, and this because this is how Howie's going to hit me. Does this make sense? So when you apply basic athletic performances and adventures to a kung fu practice, to me, that's where I always came from. Sifu always explained things in a very pragmatic way. He wasn't foo-foo at all. In fact, I would dare say he was probably the opposite of it, right? But your ability to look at it, go, okay, if I was a football player, a wrestler, basketball player, tennis player, anything, can you move and do things with your body that are called upon in a moment without having to go, well, how am I going to do that? Well, hell, don't worry about it. It's already too late. You just got hit in the face. That's why they say a lot of times in a lot of the karate worlds, Ian Abernathy and things like that. And I love that's why I love Ian. He's like most criminals can do more with the brick than most practitioners can do with 10 kata or 10 forms. Okay. Never look for your form to be good. Look for you to be good. I'm gonna point this out. That guy right there, Scotty, his forms are not going to be the best. I'm not insulting you. You know that, right? I love you. His forms, if you're learning forms of the group, he can help you, but he'll be the first one. Form is not necessarily a strong suit, but you don't want to get involved with him. You don't want to piss him off, right? Because he ain't gonna worry about form, right? All you're gonna feel is pain, right? Perfect example of being form oriented, but not form consumed. If you're just a health style practitioner, for example, there's nothing wrong with that. Make your form as good as you can, but make it for you, not for external application. Does that all resonate? That's more of a purpose practice. Okay. All right. So let's just finish with a little set. Tell you what, let's do the first two sets of the fire set, kind of get my mind calm back down. Okay. Is this right? Is this correct here? Okay. All right. So y'all are following Ryan. And if you're following anybody, you can just follow the tempo out of your peripheral. Let the hands float and settle down. Let's just take a few breaths there. Don't move. Let my mind calm down a little bit. Let my heart. In closing of that, it's always good to practice whatever you want to practice that day. And I mean that with all my heart. If you want to practice for application, then by all means do so. If you want to practice for better timing and better form, by all means do so. The point of this conversation isn't about a judgment of which is better or worse. It's a reminder for you to take the time to remember what in the hell it is you're practicing and not to overlay one on top of the other. Okay. From here, let's begin to move. Hold the baby. Good. Up. Good. Take a breath right there. Let the hands extend, roll back. The hand floats and comes to lay down onto the wrist and wash the back of your hand, come back and good. Hold the moon and sitting back. Turn your body. Separate the clouds. Mirror hand, reach up and out. The hands float up a little bit and then they roll back. The hand floats, comes to lay onto the wrist. Exhale. Feel good and light. Back and out. Good. Stay right there for just a moment. Because I just made a comment I'd like to emphasize to you. Because in either practice, whether you're practicing for form, or you're practicing for general speed, or if you're practicing for power, or if you're practicing for application, practice imagining your body being as light as possible. Being light is literally like a variable that helps you be quick, it helps you be nimble. Okay. If you're filled with predetermination and muscular strength, you are no longer nimble. Okay. Let's sit back, sweep over to the side, your body light, single. Good. The arms empty, lightly into the air like the clouds. They float over. Good. Turn, wrapping everything up. Exhale, spread everything out. Good. Then the hand and foot return to neutral. We're going to sweep over to the other side smoothly, stepping out the single whip. The arms lightly float up into the air. Turn, wrap it all up. Open. Good. Okay. Let everything return to neutral. Let's just take a breath there. Let's turn to the front. Step out, gather your clouds, hold them in a cross hand. Bring it together, pressing the palms to the earth, push the head toward the sky. Okay, good. All right. Any questions? No, everybody good? Fantastic. Good practice today. See y'all a little later. Yes, sir. Yeah. Is it? Is the alphabet too? Okay. All right. 48.
If you were gonna post for a lady works the shuttles, would you start with maybe just the work there?
Yeah, you can handle it and then change over. Yeah. Post anytime you're posting and you want to do an application stance. T-stance is a great one to practice. It's not easy, is it, Bader?
No, no, sir. But the shifting back 1 grain of rice, does that make you not double weighted? Is that what it is?
Well, it's to put a little bit right. You start with 1 grain of rice. Then later, what you'll do is you start dead center,
Right.
1 grain of rice. Okay. Then later you slide it back just a touch more, where it's 60-40. What's hard about this is you go 60-40 on this side, but you have to keep this knee pushing forward.
Yeah.
What the tendency is that you lose the triangle. So what a lot of people do is that when they sit, when they go back, see how this leg straightens? Okay, you see that angle? But to keep this here and to keep pushing that forward, that's a whole nother level. Yeah, it is. You just sitting there going, okay, this is tough. This is tough. You know, and just practice it. But it won't matter because later you'll be able to do rush knee like this, center punch like that, working the shuttles, things, you know, there's different ones. And you can see it in your transition sometimes. Like if you'll see the snake spits poison and you sit back into this, what you'll see me doing a lot of times is you'll see me doing this, right? Because that's what I naturally do, as compared to what a lot of them help, you'll see them do this. Okay? But you can practice just sit, because the idea is I'm trying to practice with not this. I'm trying to practice this. Notice what happened, the difference in his body? Even though I did the same thing, when I sit back and do this, see how it stretches him out and takes him a bit? But when I do this, I get the same stretch, but I also have I have the equal going the other way. So it ends up putting him in the void, where now he doesn't know which way to go. And Sifu Chin would always tell us, say, look, you practice yin to collect the chi. But when you need the chi to move, you have to put the mind in a split. Am I going forward or back? Yes. Now, once you get there, then the chi will move by itself. Because your mind can't think in one way or the other, so the chi has to do the work. And the chi being basically your energy, your intention. And that's tough to practice. So yeah, to your question, practice it all you want to. Okay? All right. I'd like to see y'all do the 48, but I don't want to have to leave.
Okay.
Because y'all are, you know, I like to be able to see what y'all are doing behind me sometimes. Right? So I guess what we're going to do is we're going to have Kathy and Bader up front. Or Karen, do you want to do it?
All three of us.
Okay.
Between us, we'll figure it out.
Okay, good. Right? You know, I used to be able to sit down, and I remember practicing, and Sifu Chin would be in his little wicker recliner. You remember those chairs that had like a wicker base, and then they had a wicker top that you set on that base, and then
Papa chair.
okay, I didn't know that's what they were called. And it had a big cushion in it.
Yeah.
He would sit in those things all the damn time, and I would have to move it. It's like, Tim, put my chair over there. Okay, Sifu. Okay, moving and stuff, right? Yeah, right? But they weren't heavy because they were just big wicker baskets, right?
They are comfortable.
Yeah, and then you're over there practicing. And the next thing you hear is, and he's sleeping, right? And then you hear, George, pick your damn feet up. Like, how in the fuck? He wasn't even looking.
He's dreaming about me.
Right. But you know, it was funny, even in his dreams, bad footwork was a nightmare.
Right.
You okay?
Yeah, I'll be fine. Thank you.
All right. So take care of it. Now, this time, I asked them to leave themselves. Okay? So, all right. So I want y'all to